Hi, this is Ariel. Thanks for listening. The recording that you're about to hear is a live lecture that I gave several years ago based on the teachings of the Druidic craft of the wise. The sound quality of this recording is probably not up to today's standards because it was digitized from tape. If you'd like to find out more about the DCW, visit our website at www.thedcw.org. That's THEDCW.org. I sure hope that you check back often. Feel free to email us, and I hope you enjoy the recording. Blessed be.
Okay, let's join hands with somebody at least. You don't have to join hands all the way around the circle. Join something anyway. Hands or otherwise. Okay, together we'll all close our eyes and we'll take 6 slow, deep, relaxing breaths. We feel the tension releasing from our bodies every time we exhale. And as we inhale, we breathe in more light, more love. And we feel peace emanating from us. And we picture ourselves on top of a beautiful mountain, and we're in the center of a circular grove of trees. And in the center of our circle, a bonfire glows. And from this bonfire, a beautiful sacred golden light shines forth, and it stretches out through all time and space. We recognize this light as being the light of perfect love and perfect trust. And it heals everything that it touches. And into the sacred space we call upon our celestial parents, and all the angels and teachers of the way, those who have gone before us, and those that are here now, and those that are yet to come. And we ask that we be guided as we walk upon the way to perfection, that we will learn to become more peaceful and more loving. Thank you very much. Together we say, blessed be. Hello. How's everybody doing? Happy New Year. It's been a while. Tonight I'd like to talk about how we perceive ourselves, and also let's just start with that, how we see ourselves. Because it's really all about that, isn't it? What we think about. You know, it's real big stuff now. I mean, everybody's on the metaphysical bandwagon, even born-again Christians. You know, what you think about is what you get. And God forbid they call it magic, but we know what it is, you know. And what you think about really does expand and become reality. And if you wanted to be real pragmatic about it, your attitudes determine your actions, and your actions determine what you do in the world, and what you do in the world is what you build for yourself. So even if you don't want to think on a real ooey metaphysical basis, you've got this concept of what you bring to the world emotionally is how you're going to respond to the world, and how you respond to the world has a lot to do with how the world responds back to you. It's not a big mystery, but we think it is, and we see it as that way. I think sometimes it is because, you know, I can't be responsible for this. It's them. You know, it's their fault. But I think what happens for me anyway, and for most everybody I know, is people tend to treat you according to the way you feel about yourself and the way you think about yourself. And if you kind of, you know, how are you today? Oh, I'm not very good, you know. Everybody gets that, and they all pick it up, and they all run with it, and they all tell their friends, and they tell 2 friends, and so on, and so on, and so on. And pretty soon, you have a lot of support in the universe going, well, she feels like shit, you know. And that every time you see that person, you remember, oh yeah, they're the ones that are such a downer. And even if they're not necessarily displaying that kind of behavior, it's what we emanate back to you. And thoughts are creative, and thoughts are powerful. So it's really hard to overcome our own attitudinal problems because of the fact that they are so deeply engrooved in our personality. Oftentimes, I shouldn't even say often, I think most of the time, it has to do with how we were raised. That is, it's not just your genetics, it's not just your astrology chart, it's also how you were raised and what kinds of attitudes are important to your family and what they held dear. And if being depressed was something that was normal from mom and you associate mom with love, then somehow, somewhere there, being depressed is loving. And if you weren't so depressed, somehow you would be disloyal to your mom, perhaps. Or maybe, anger. A lot of families and a lot of cultures, anger being expressed loudly is kind of a sign of communication. I know it's certainly that way in Greek families. And a lot of families, the idea that if you just can express your anger, somehow that's just how they are. That's how they love each other. Unfortunately, that's very destructive. But we don't recognize it because whatever our stuff is what we're used to. So what happens, I've noticed, is when you become during the adolescent years, you tend to try to rebel against whatever it is that you were taught. Some people don't. Some people actually are very good conformists and good little boys and girls. But for the most of us, the rebellion is a big deal. So what happens is say, for instance, your parents are real big into guilt. Real big into guilt tripping you or themselves, and that's just what they're run by. I don't know if anybody here can relate, but I can. Guilt runs, kind of makes the world go round in a lot of people's families. And so what happens is when you're doing that rebellion, you have this no more guilt. I'm not going to be run by guilt. Dang it! I remember that the other day. I was spending some time with my family at Christmas. I came home. I was pissed. I said, I spent thousands of dollars on therapy. There's no way they're going to make me go back to that again. But then I recognized what I was doing. I was like, you're being run by it again. You're totally being run by this, right? So so you can either rebel against what you were taught as a child, or you can conform to it. But either way, you're being run by that. So what we have to do is not look at how can we be different than our parents, or how can we break away from those kinds of upbringing patterns that we were taught when we were brought up. It's more, how can we just find an opening to see it completely differently, in a whole new perspective, in a whole new way. And so anyway, before we get into all that, when people tend to, treat you the way you treat yourself. If you treat yourself like dirt, don't expect everybody else to go, oh, you're so wonderful, And if everybody in your life is treating you like dirt, they've just picked their cue up from you. And I'm not talking about the occasional jerk, who's that way. But if you notice that there tends to be a trend in your life where people just don't like you very much, it's probably you. It's probably you. It's probably your personality and your attitudes. And it's just like the universe is sort of like, I always say the goddess isn't your waitress, but it's sort of like in a way the universe is your servant. Because if your thoughts say, everybody hates me, the universe goes, yes sir, yes ma'am, anything you say coming right up. And you get all these people that hate you. And even, and this is the way it works. It's like the person who always, like patterns, okay? The person that always seems to end up with an alcoholic spouse, right? This is the way it is. Say their father was an alcoholic, right? And this is how creative the mind is. The father was an alcoholic. Somehow they decide that, subliminally, that I always deserve to be with an alcoholic. And they always tend to end up with an alcoholic spouse partner. And so they either attract alcoholics, it's like, alcoholic. Oh, you, come this way. That would be one way. Looking for the alcoholic in the crowd. And come on, we need to get married. The next thing would be projecting something onto that person that's not even there. Like they have a glass of wine with dinner. Oh, I just know it, another alcoholic, when they're not, right? The other one would be driving them to drink. You know what I'm saying? Like creating the reality completely for them, the way, perfectly normal person, not even predisposed perhaps to drinking, but, the only way they can survive this marriage is if they become one. That's sort of how we are. We create our reality according to what our expectations are. And our expectations of our reality are based upon the way we see ourselves, what we really feel like we deserve. Now, I don't think anybody in this room is fully, myself included, is fully actualized and totally, has great self-esteem and fully at peace with the universe and bringing unto them the abundance that the universe wants to pour onto them, right? What we are is, and we're all in our own little stage of evolution, right? And no stage is better or worse than any other stage. So it's important that we don't compare against one another. They seem to really have it together with money, but I don't, or whatever. Right? Everybody's got their own curriculum based upon what God or the universe has given us. But what we do need to do is examine, well, how do we talk to ourselves? How do you talk to yourself? What do you find yourself saying to yourself all the time? Maybe you disguise it really well. Maybe you don't really hear your self-talk to yourself. Well, then how do you talk to other people? Are you really mean to people? Do you tend to be really sarcastic with people? Do you tend to be really scathing with people? Do you tend to do the opposite? Do you tend to placate people where you can't have anybody be upset in your presence? Whatever it is, that's a cue, because you can't give something that you don't have, and what you do have is what you automatically give out. So the way like Jesus said, treat others the way you'd like to be treated, well, it's really even bigger than that. You do treat others the way you treat yourself. That's the way it is. Right? So when we investigate how it is that we think about ourselves in the world, I think one of the big litmus tests for this is, well, what would it be like? Like you say your big issue in this lifetime seems to be relationships. What would it be like if like we always say, create a mate, do a perfect mate spell. You take all of the perfect traits that you'd want, and this is a great exercise. Take all the traits that you want in your perfect mate. I want them this way, I want them that way, I want them this way, I want them that way. This perfect person, right? And then look at all of those things and just say, would he ever date you? Really? Would he ever? Do you really feel like you deserve someone like that? Probably no. Probably not. Right? So what we need to do is not so much focus on them creating this perfect mate. Yeah, make the list. But instead, then say, now, what kind of a person would this person be attracted to? And what are the qualities in myself that I don't feel that say that I don't deserve this person, or whatever it is, And that's what we work on. Not so much out there getting this job or this mate or this whatever it is, this health. But what is it about those things? Yeah, get the details down. That's part of magic. But the reason why we don't get what we want when we do magic is because of the way we feel about ourselves. Right? Because what happens is it's like eating Drano. Actually no, that's not a good example. How about this? Well, it is like that, but here, let's put it in perspective. We want something positive, right? So say you've been on a diet of junk food and caffeine and cigarettes for the last 25 years, right? And you decide to kick it, and drinking and drugs, all of it, just everything bad, right? And you decide to kick all those habits at once and go on a macrobiotic diet, right? What does your body do to you? It goes, ah! In fact, I know somebody, I don't know if anybody in here is old enough in the community, maybe you, somebody that died. Somebody that died because they decided to go off drugs by themselves without going to a clinic. They died because their body said, ugh, and they couldn't take it. Too much detox, right? Well, you do this spell, right, for the perfect whatever you're doing, right? And the energy comes back to you. What does your system do? Doesn't compute. Regurgitate, throw it up, right? And then we think, oh, this is all bogus. Magic doesn't work. It's not magic that doesn't work. It did work. The problem was your system couldn't handle it. It was foreign to your system. It was foreign to your system, right? So what it is about our self-perception and our self-image and our self-esteem and our sense of self-worth that repels these things, right? So part of what happens when we're trying to get what we want out of life is we are so addicted to the results, right? We want that thing. Like, we want this job. This job is so important to me. And wanting that job is like wanting that person in the bar across from you. When you want them that badly, they don't want you. You're unattractive to them, right? When you want something that desperately, what you're saying, the reason why I need it so much is because I know I can never have it. You're screaming that out on a psychic plane. Can't get it, not worth it, not worth it. And the universe goes, oh, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, coming right up, not worth it, not worth it. We'll give you this instead, because that's what your self-perception says I deserve. So the real work that we need to really look at, if we're going to be serious about this stuff, is not so much what do I want. What you want is obvious, right? What you need is obvious. I don't know. There's nobody in this room that's really that new to this. We get that, right? You make your goals. We know how to make our goals. We know how to get clear on what our lessons are, We know how to get clear on what our strengths and weaknesses are in the material world, what we need, the things that we need, right? The next step, and I think the most important step, is why don't you have them? Not because God doesn't like you. Not because they're better than you. It's because you don't deserve it in your mind. You feel like you don't deserve it. Part of the thing that we have to understand is nobody gets anything they haven't earned. Nobody gets anything they haven't earned. And that's something that we haven't gotten, and this generation is going down the toilet with this, because everybody wants to be a millionaire. Like that. And I'll talk about this more on Friday when I do my prosperity thing. Everybody wants to be a millionaire like that. They haven't earned it. Why should the universe give you $1 million when you haven't earned it yet? And that's why people amass these great fortunes in the stock market, and they know they didn't earn it, so they've got to go, get this money away from me, and they have to blow it all. Or that's why when people that's why when people inherit money, and they're like, I don't get it, it goes right through them in 2-3 years at max. I've seen it. We've all seen it. People win the lottery, and they go into, millions of dollars of debt because they know they haven't earned it. Well, earning it doesn't necessarily mean working in the world. Earning it, really, the work that you have to do to earn it is to obtain the self-esteem necessary to maintain that vessel. The vessel of self-esteem to maintain whatever that thing is. The vessel itself is not gracious enough, then it can't hold it. If your vessel is not gracious enough, it cannot hold that thing that you're trying to pull into it. It's like Jesus said, you can't put new wine in old bottles. You can't. You put new wine in new bottles. If you put new wine in old bottles, the wine is ruined. But we think, all I have to do is make an affirmation or do my visualization or whatever, and it's going to come to me. Well, it will. But the problem is, it will be tainted because we won't be able to keep it. Right? Because we will sabotage it at every single time. Every single time. So the work that we have to do, the work that's really important on us, is not the work of perfection, is not so much getting what we think we want, but it's feeling that we deserve to have what we know we need. Right? What does everybody want? Everybody wants to be loved. Everybody wants to feel safe in the world. Everybody wants to have enough money that they feel like they are self-independent. Nobody wants to be a burden. Everybody wants to be self-sufficient. Everybody wants to feel free. Everybody wants to feel that they have something worthwhile to contribute to this world. Everybody wants to feel like the world was a better place because they were here. Ultimately, everybody wants that. But since we don't think we deserve that, we say, And we have these other attitudes, and we have these pseudo goals on top of those because we can't stand to look at what it is that we really want because we don't think that that's good, that we are good enough for that. Does that make sense? So instead of that, we go into denial about those things which we know are true, that we know we want, and that we know we need to work on, and we say instead, oh, I need something superficial. I need to go shopping. Right? Why do we go, again, this is really for Friday, but why do we go shopping? Why do we go to drugs? Why do we go to alcohol? Why do we smoke cigarettes? Why do we do all the stuff that we do? We all do it, something. None of us are exempt from that in this room, and if you are, then, you can just think of something else right now and not pay attention. But the rest of us, we know that the reason why we do all of those things is because we are looking for satisfaction in a world where we don't feel like we can get the things that we really want, and therefore we will settle for something else that will give us some level of instant gratification, even though we know that what it does is further delay the process, and further delay the process. It's interesting because most people don't get that if they don't take care of their bodies, they're eventually going to be a burden on somebody. Until you've lived with a parent or whatever, or you've seen it happen. If you don't take care of your body now, eventually you're going to be a burden on somebody. Why do you think we do that? Why do you think that we are so negligent of our bodies so that, we don't have health insurance, a lot of us, decent health insurance. A lot of us don't have disability insurance. A lot of us don't take care of the things that we need to take care of in order so that we're not a burden on society, right? It sounds like real conservative politics, doesn't it? But it's true. It's true. Because the government, I think it's important that the government is there for us when we can't take care of ourselves. But we all think that, well, it's okay. We'll all just be taken care of. But the reason why we do that is because we don't feel like we're good enough to have it all. Do you think God is sitting there going, really messed up on that, second-rate grade B product there. They're no good for this world, and No, God is, if God is really the loving father and mother that we say they are, then that means that they are loving parents that want us to thrive. If you look at nature, nature is extremely healthy. By itself, nature is very healthy. It always takes care of itself. It always takes care of each other. At first glance, it looks like, everybody eats everybody, but if you look at it from the point of view of nature has perfect balance and everything's taken care of, right? You should be taking a cue we should all be taking a cue from nature and recognize that everything is taken care of for us. All we need to do is ask. All we need to do is ask for what we need, right? But it will never work for us until we get to the point where we can say, and I am a divine son or daughter of my celestial parents, and therefore it's my birthright. Therefore it's my inheritance. It's what I was made to be. We say we want to be gods in the making, but we will act like it? No. Being a god or a goddess in reality is having utmost humility, recognizing that it's not my show. I'm just part of the process. I'm just another one of the perfect divine thoughts in my Creator's mind, right? And now the thing is the ego mind will say, who are you to think that you can have what you want in this world? Who are you to think that you're so divine? And who are you to think that you are so worthy? But from God's point of view, it's like, who are you not to think that? Who are you to think that you're any less than what I created? Does that make sense? So what we get is, I get it. All of my negative self-talk, all of my negative self-image and self-esteem is blasphemy. It's blasphemous. It's arrogant. You screwed up. You messed up. Bad job. Oops. Bad God. Bad God. That's what you're saying. Every time you say, oh, my life really sucks. How are you today? Now, you got to have 1, 2 friends, counselor, somebody to whom you can tell the real honest truth. How are you today? Awful. I'm really awful. Everything is awful. And you have to have that. We need that. Just to kind of unload, unload the forebrain. It's just like everything is bad. Everybody's bad. I hate everybody. Everything, But if you get into telling everybody that, like we said earlier, they'll all say, okay, thank you for sharing, and they'll compute that. And everybody will pick it up, and everybody will run with it, and that's the way it's going to be. And that's the way it's going to stay. And you'll never break out of that pattern, because what you've done is you've said, oh, group mind of the world, would you all think along with me that my life sucks? And everybody will. And we know the power of the mind, and then we know the power of numbers, right? So if everybody's thinking that you're a piece of flotsam in the sea, you're a tiny speck of dust, then how are you ever going to break free from that? Right? So the best thing that we can do for ourselves is to just start at square one and just look at who are we? Why are we here? That's it. Who are you? Anybody? Who are you? Who really are you? Where did you come from? Anybody know where you came from besides your mommy's womb? Yes. Yes, you're a child of God. You're a child of divinity. You're a child of the universe, right? You are. Now, does a baby monkey give birth to a seal? No. Does a baby human give birth to a cow? Well, sometimes. No, but you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying, though? No. What it is if you're a child of divinity, then you are, by the very nature of that fact, divine, right? You don't express it. You're not perfect in this world, because that's part of the process. That's why we're here, is so that you can learn how to remember that and express it. That's the process of perfection. But if you can remember why you're here, and then the next thing, why did you come here? What's your purpose? To learn what? Yes, right? And how do you perfect? How do you quickly perfect? Yeah, what's the shortcut to that? Okay, and what is, the process of initiation. But what's the bottom line part of that process? Yeah, relax. Relax. Let go. Just relax on a regular and profound basis, right? Now, I'm not saying, oh, well, you poor little peasants, here I am, all perfect, and one day you'll be like me. I'm not saying that at all. I mean, we're all in the same boat. But I will tell you this, that every time I practice these principles, my life is better. Every area in my life where I practice the principles of wisdom, my life works. And everywhere that I don't, my life doesn't work, and it's consistent, and it's like clockwork, and it's very scientific. That is true. That is very true. So, if you can just remember who you are and why you're here, that's the first step. Well, okay, if who I am is a child of divinity, and why I'm here is basically to remember that, perfection, right? That's the quick way. Oh, yeah, could have been perfect. Who I am and why I'm here, then you have a basis from which you can have some real self-esteem. Recognize that you didn't give yourself your self-esteem. God did. You were created that way. All that other stuff is your doing. God's way works. Your way doesn't. God's way is perfect. Your way is not. Do you see the difference? There's the way with a capital W, and then there's your way. And you have lots of little ways. I mean, don't we have a lot of ways? We've got ways and ways and ways, and it's very convoluted, isn't it? And it's so hard to sometimes find your way out of your little ways, a maze of ways. But that maze of ways is an illusion. And so the way to find that illusion, to dispel that illusion, is to say, God and Goddess, please help me. Please help me to remember who I am in this situation, and in this situation, in this moment, and in this moment, and recognize when you're off, when you're starting in on yourself. You did it again. You did it again. Shame, anger, fear. Those things. Shame, anger, and fear basically are about it, you know. I mean, everything else is convolution of one of those things. But, you know, if you're ashamed of what you've done, a little bit of shame is okay if it's in the form of remorse that is acted upon and you make amends and you have healing. That can be healthy as long as it's a process that's going somewhere and you're not just sitting with it. Fear can be actually a very good thing if it's propelling you into better action. You know what I'm saying? Like, I may not have any money when I get older. Ooh, better start a retirement fund. You know, that's a good thing. Fear can be a good catalyst in that sense. Anger is probably the worst one of the bunch because it's almost always destructive. But sometimes it can be helpful. I know I can get results when I'm mad. But along with all of those things, we have to learn how to get past them and to get into why do we express ourselves in such negative ways? Because we feel bad about ourselves, right? Because, you know, usually I say something like, you know, if you practice just 1/10 of the wisdom that you've been taught and that you already know, your life would be perfect. Just 1/10, or even less, maybe even 1/1. 1% of your knowledge of perfection and what you know about these principles, your life would be heaven. It would be perfect. You would have nothing to complain about. But on the flip side of that, when we look at it in those terms, don't you already have a lot to acknowledge yourself for in the strides that you've made? I mean, just look at yourself over the past 1 year, the past 5 years, the past 10 years, and look at where you've come in that time in regards to your own personal development and your own personal perfection and the way that you relate to people and the way you relate to yourself and the world. I think that your mind would rather have you look at how bad you are and not recognize the fact that you've come a long, long way. And no, you're not done yet. You're not finished yet. You're not perfect yet, but you're on your way, right? You're in the process. You've done really, really well. And I can guarantee you that if we could anthropomorphize what God and Goddess are, and they were just looking at you from their little place on the cloud, you know, they would look at you and they would say, you're just so beautiful. I'm so pleased with where you are and how much you've done. I really don't see our divine parents going, I'm going to get you. You're going to get it. You know, I don't get that at all. I get that the place of perfection, of the celestial love, is always pouring forth love and total patience. And if we could see ourselves, I mean, I use this image. If a puppy runs out into the street, everybody heard me tell this. If a puppy runs out into the street and gets hit by a car, you go up to it. You don't say, "You stupid dog! Now look what you've done." Oh well, serves you right. You're dead, or you're dying, or you're hurt. You know, you don't do that. You pick it up and you go, rush it to the vet. You try to make it better. You have compassion. You run forth toward it, right? But we will give a puppy so much compassion, but we won't even give ourselves a little bit of that same compassion. This little puppy, you know, granted, puppies deserve our love, but do puppies deserve more love than you? Why? Why does a puppy deserve more compassion than you? Tell me. Somebody tell me. Why is that true? It's not true. The puppy is just an image of how we can show compassion, where we see innocence, where we see, you know, you see a baby when it's not screaming, oh, you know, right? I want to hold it. Everybody, that's the first image. I want to hold the baby or whatever. I want to hold the kitty. It's my kitty. You know, well, the world could be such, your life could be such where you walk into a room and everybody goes, oh, I want to hold you. And they get that same sort of feeling of like, oh, because you deserve the same amount of as the puppy and the kitten and the baby and all that stuff. You're just as cute, you're just as sweet, you're just as lovable, you're just as adorable, you're just as wonderful as they are. Now, if the puppy pees on the rug, it's a bad puppy, but it's not a bad puppy. I mean, you don't slit its throat, you know? You still have, then you got even more mess to clean up, right? But we do it to ourselves psychologically, right? If we make one mistake, we're bad. And you know what happens then? If anybody else makes a mistake, they're going to get it too. Because if I get it from myself, nobody else gets off the hook either. And that's where that comes into play. So that's why I'm saying how you treat others, it's the same way as you treat yourself. And you know what arrogance is? Insecurity. I've seen that in myself where I'm feeling really insecure about something, and all I'm aware of is the insecurity. I'm not aware of the fact that I'm being a total jerk. I'm not aware of the fact that I'm being totally pompous and arrogant. All I can experience is the fact that I'm so afraid. But everybody else doesn't get that. Nobody else gets that. Everybody else goes, what is wrong with you? What is wrong with him today? You know? That's what insecurity does to us, though. That's when we feel so uncomfortable in our own skins, uncomfortable in our own spirits and our own auras, that the way that we react to people is so abrasive or so whatever your game is. Everybody's got their own game. You're either condescending or you're abrasive or you're really sweet. You know, that's what I love. You know, I would much rather somebody like be a jerk to me than do the, hi, how are you today? And I just can see them. They're seething rage underneath all of that, hi. You know, I would much rather they just be honest with the fact that, you know, they don't like themselves. At least it's one less removed from the truth. But the truth is behind all of that ultimately you do love yourself. Ultimately you do love everybody else. Why? Because you are a creature of love. Isn't that right? How can you... Love begets love. If your love is your parent, then you are a creature of love. You are pure love. That's it. That's what it is. That's all you are. Everything else is stuff that you made up. Lifetimes and lifetimes of stuff that you've made up about yourself. It's what the celestial world is, isn't it? It's everything that's not dross, everything that's not finite, everything that's not weighed down with anything but pure light. What's pure light? Pure love, right? That's what peace is. The more peace that you get, the more light you have, the more you raise your vibrations. The more you raise your vibrations, the more celestial you are. The higher your vibrations are, the lighter you are, the more heat you generate. You know, the more love you generate. That's why, you know, the words, you know, he's hot. She's so cold. If you're hot, it doesn't necessarily just mean sexually, but, you know, he's on fire. It's usually a great thing. It's enthusiasm. It's love. It's brilliance. That's the thing, is people are afraid, I think, sometimes, too, that if they get real peaceful and they get real kind of holy and they get real connected to love, they get real loving, that they're going to be boring. But that's not the case. You tend to become more vibrant. You become more animated. You become more interesting. People want to be around you. Everything's more exciting. The sun doesn't become more boring. You know, you don't become more boring as you get to the celestial world. It actually becomes more vibrant, more exciting. You know, so we are afraid of that brilliance. We are afraid of that excitement. We're afraid of that enthusiasm because it's different. It's different than what we were taught. Again, back to what we started out with. What we were taught as children was, I don't know about you, I was taught, calm down. Sit down. Settle down. Which is understandable because it's hard to be around that when you're a kid. But I mean, you know, when you're an adult, when a kid's doing that. But at the same time, what's the message there? My enthusiasm and my brilliance and my connection to my own divine nature is wrong. It's bad. What else are we supposed to do but become neurotic messes when the world teaches us that who you are is wrong and what we tell you are is right? I mean, is it any mystery that everybody's all, like, totally messed up in this culture? What we have to do is when we hear that, when we hear from the society, when we hear from our friends even, well, because this is how it works. When you start deciding, okay, I'm gonna be a better person or whatever. I'm gonna be more loving to myself and others. I'm going to accept myself the way I am, and so I'm going to love myself. I'm going to feel more deserving of what life has to offer me. Then an interesting thing happens. People don't know how to handle you. and people react to you because they are relating to who you used to be, and it's your responsibility to make sure that they get, without being confrontive or attacking or anything, that that's not me anymore. That's not my reality anymore. That's not me. That's not my experience that you're talking about. It's something I used to be, but it has nothing to do with who I am today. And it's not anything other than an energy that you carry into the world, that this is who I am now. And that old me was not really me to begin with, so I've buried it. It's dead. But its ghost sometimes is still earthbound, right? In the way that the ghost is earthbound is in other people's perceptions of you, when they remember how you used to be. God, I know that one. People are always relating to my past, and that's okay. But it's up to me not to get dragged back into that. Because that's what we do, is we go, oh, they must be right. They must be right. Because we've got the whole authority thing wrong. We think everybody outside of us is the authority. That's why we give our money over to investment counselors. That's why we give our minds over to certain therapists. That's why we give our power over to bosses or whatever it is. Because outside of us, they have the answer, but we don't. They're the authority, we aren't. So when somebody relates to you the way you used to be, it's really easy to go, oh, you're right, and to fall back. Does that make sense? So when you make these strides, it's important for you to keep them. And to make sure that everybody else gets that you're not that way anymore. Not necessarily by your words, but by your actions. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how they're relating to you. Because who and what we are is determined either by God or by the world. And we have to make that choice. And that's the only choice we can make. We can't really do anything about it other than choose. Well, am I going to have God dictate to me my self-esteem in this situation, or should I just go ahead and give my power over to that person? Am I going to believe what the advertising campaigns say about what is beautiful? Or am I going to look in myself and recognize, oh, that's where beauty really lives, not in that anorexic thing over there, right? Am I going to believe that my spending all this money that I can't afford to spend within my particular means right now is where I'm going to get my self-worth by getting these things that I don't really need? Or am I going to listen to that voice inside of me that says, no, you better save your money. Save your money. Invest your money, right? There's difference. There's a major difference. And you know who knows what's right for you? You. And you know where you can find that out? Right here. It's right in the belly button area. Any situation God is talking to you through, God lives through you and as you right here. It's like every time I've fallen into a bad trap, it's because I didn't listen to the voice. Can you relate? It's like you make this stupid mistake. I knew I shouldn't have done that. I knew I shouldn't have done that. And God's just silently saying, well, maybe you'll learn, maybe you'll listen next time. So when we go out into the world, our self-esteem and how we approach the world has to be determined by God and not by our old memories about who we were. Our past has got to cease having power over us. Nobody is out there going, okay, now, this is what we're going to do. We're going to abolish your past and we're going to make you feel good about yourself. Nobody's out there waiting to do this for you. It's up to you. Every day, your old, that the Lord's Prayer, forgive us our trespasses or whatever. That basically means, forgive me my past. Let me forget about who I used to be. And the way sometimes that you forget about that is by cleaning up the mess you made. I mean, actually, almost all the time that's the way you do it. The way that you make peace for the way you used to be, and to prove to the world that you're not that way anymore is by saying, oh, that person that used to reside in something that looked like my body, I have to clean up this mess for them because they made a mistake and it was in my name and I'm really sorry that happened. But that really wasn't me. That was a neurotic mess that I called me. But it has nothing to do with me. Because, who you are can either be the sum total of your experiences, or it can be right now who God tells you you should be. It can be your personality who's been built up and who the world has created and churned out through the machine of our society, or it can be in this moment who you who is given to you in this moment by the celestial world. And really, it's just a choice. And that's why Eli always says, happiness is a choice. It's a decision. It's not an easy decision, because you have to give up your addiction to misery. You have to give up your addiction to the world. You have to go and take a risk and say, okay, I'm going to make a decision on my own without the world doing it for me. You have to do those things, and they're hard. But you can either be happy or miserable. So the next time somebody asks you how you are, will you please tell them the truth? I'm fabulous. Just the way I was created. I'm fabulous. Thank you for asking. And so are you, by the way. Okay, any questions about this? Any comments before we move on to announcements? Well, again, are you looking to the world to determine your self-worth? Because if you care about how people react to you, because you know why you worry? Because how you react to people. Freak! And you go talk about them behind their backs, don't you? You go talk about the bad people. They are. But you know what that does for you? That makes you say, I'll never be able to act like that. I'll never be able to act spontaneously because I don't want to be a freak. And you know where you are? Stuck. You're stuck in your own misery, and don't be surprised if you're never happy. Don't be surprised if you are never happy, yes? Grab ass or crab? Oh, I thought you said crab ass. I'm like, what's crab ass? Okay, yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes, master. Yes, master. Yes, master. Anything you say, master. Yep. We've got to be aware of that. But we also have to understand where we're coming from, because we can use this as a means by which to be really sort of attacking of other people by you shouldn't say that, I can't afford that. That can be a really prosperous statement. No, I can't afford it. I'm living within my means now. I'm not doing credit card debt anymore. But some people would say, well, you can't say that, because then you're negating the fact that you'll ever get it again. But we got to understand where people are coming. It doesn't matter so much the words; it matters where you're coming from. Does that make sense? Yeah. Oh, that's a yawn. I thought it was a comment. Oh, I get it. I'm sleepy too. Anything else? Okay. Let's just do a small meditation, then we'll do announcements. Well, relax. Dear Father and Mother, we call upon you in this moment. We ask that we receive a greater experience of who you are. We ask that we be shown in this moment just how you are manifesting through us. We ask to be shown where you reside within us. And we can call upon you in any and every moment and choose peace, choose happiness. We recognize that we've made mistakes in the past, and we ask that in this moment that those mistakes be wiped clean as we learn our lessons from them. We ask that we are shown a way that we can be more open to receiving all of the treasures that you are always pouring through us, but somehow we feel we don't deserve. We see that through you we can open up into being more deserving and feeling that our deserving of love, that our deservingness of love comes through you, not through us, and therefore we can surrender and let it flow through us. We ask that we don't look to the world to determine our identity or our self-worth, but we look to you. And our connection to you is stronger than our connection to this world. Yet, this world benefits greatly from it. Thank you very much. Together we say, blessed be.